If you want to actually improve your interviewing skills to get more job offers, all you have to do is practice interviewing. Seems pretty simple, right? But you're all doing it wrong. Practice? We're talking about practice? Oh, but I already practiced for interviews and it's not working. That's because most of you probably practice interviewing like this. Okay, I've printed out all of the most common interview questions that I found on the internet, and now I'm just gonna memorize my answers. Look, you're not actually practicing properly, and in fact, you're memorizing bad answers. So if you actually want to get job offers, you basically need to deconstruct everything you know about practicing for interviews. So to properly practice for interviews, step number 1 is to take your fully optimized resume. And by the way, if you don't know how to optimize your resume, you can watch this video right over here, or you can click my entire playlist where I have a bunch of how to write your resume videos. So you're going to take your resume, and for every single bullet point that you have on there, you need to write a full star story all the way out on a Word document or on an Excel sheet. You need to define what the situation was in that story, the tasks you did, the specific actions that you took in order to solve the problem and achieve the result. And don't forget to talk about why you made certain decisions. And then of course you have to talk about the result. And you want the result to be impactful and to have data and numbers where possible. And for those of you who have resumes that are like 2 pages or you've been working for like 30 years, you really only need to write star stories for your more recent and more relevant examples or bullets that are on your resume. And as a general rule of thumb, you want to have somewhere between 5 and 8 star stories. Okay, once you have your star stories written out, you don't memorize them quite yet. What I want you to do now is I want you to take an initial pass at ranking these stories. You need to rank them from best to least best. And if you don't know which of your stories are the best ones, your best stories tend to have the most impressive results or the ones that have the most impressive actions on how you have solved a problem. And if you want to help with this, you can sign up for a free strategy session at CareerShakers.com. Okay, so now that you've ranked your stories from best to least best, now should you start memorizing them? No. What you actually need to do is grab your cell phone and sit down right in front of it and turn the camera on to video mode. Once you've turned your camera on, you're going to push the record button and you're going to read each star story in its entirety as you've written it word for word in your document. And you're going to do 1 video per star story. Now is where you actually need to start to review your footage and optimize your story before you can even start memorizing them. Because you don't want to memorize stories if they're not fully baked or they're not quite impressive enough yet. So when you're looking at each of your different recordings, first let's look at how long each of the recordings or your stories are. If your story is less than 3 minutes, then it means it's too short and you probably don't have enough details, most likely in the action part of your story, which is where you get to show off all of your technical skills. And this is where you get to differentiate yourself from all of the other candidates. And the actions part of your story is where you get to demonstrate why you did something and how you did something. This is going to give the interviewer confidence that if they hire you and put you in the job, you actually know what you're doing. But what do you do if your story or your recording is more than 5 minutes? Well, obviously it's a little too long. You're probably going to put your interviewer to sleep, but it usually means you have a bunch of unnecessary information or facts or details that are not relevant to the story that probably detract away from your core skill set. So what you're going to do next is look at the actual scripts you've written so far and see what you need to modify and change. If you need to add more details, you need to move some parts of the story around because maybe it's confusing as you've currently written it, or you need to add more details that show why you're so good at your job and what the different skill sets that you have. Or maybe sometimes you may not have the result fully baked out yet and you need to actually do more research to figure out what the overall impact or benefit was for the company, the product, or the team. Or maybe you need to figure out what numbers you can add to your story so it sounds better. And once you're finished making your edits to your story, go ahead and grab your phone again and do another recording and keep reiterating until it's in the time frame that you want and it has all of the perfect details. Okay, and now you can start to memorize your stories. Oh, but wait, I don't know what the interview questions are, so why would I be memorizing these answers? What am I going to do? Okay, you can memorize specific answers for specific questions if you want, but that's probably what you've been doing in the past, and that's probably not working for you, which is why you clicked on this video. And also, if you're ever in an interview and someone asks you an interview question and you feel like you've blanked out or you didn't know what to say, it's because you've been practicing wrong and you've been trying to memorize your answers for specific questions. So instead, what I want you to do is, now that you've got these optimized and perfect stories in star format, make sure you memorize those. Because no matter what question they give you, even if you've never heard it before, at the end of the day, in the interview, you need to talk about your experience and what you've done in the past, which means you need to be able to tell a story. And so as long as you are confident and comfortable with all of the stories that you know you want to share, then that's what you have to talk about. Bonus tip, when you are writing your star story examples, The majority of it, like 2 to 3 minutes of your entire story, should actually be focused on your actions and what you've been doing in order to accomplish the result or solve the problem. This way, you're actually able to demonstrate your technical skills and differentiate yourself from every other candidate who has the exact same job title as you. So go ahead and click subscribe if you want more free career tips, and feel free to share this video with a friend who may be struggling getting ready for their upcoming interviews. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up.